Hi everyone, and welcome back to Learn Academic English. In today's video, I'm going to talk about adverbial conjunctions, a super important concept that can help you to write better and also to take your writing to the next level. This is something that we teach in college and university to help students improve their writing in English. Before we get into this video, I want to remind you that I have a series of videos about how to write correct sentences. This is the fourth video in that series. So make sure that you go back and watch the other videos and be sure to practice with me in the comments below. Also, if you found this video helpful, please don't forget to give it a like and subscribe if you want more videos like this one. So let's get started with adverbial conjunctions. Adverbial conjunctions are also called transitions or transition words and phrases. Sometimes we also call them conjunctive adverbs. But basically, this type of word is a conjunction. It shows a relationship between two clauses. And because they show the relationship, they include meaning that can help your writing to be more clear. These are especially important in writing. If you're preparing to write for the TOEFL or IELTS test, if you're preparing to write for school in English, these are very important and useful to help your writing be more clear and more advanced. But there are a few rules that you should know about using these. So let's get into some of those rules. First of all, I just want to mention again that these are formal. So we sometimes use them in speaking, but they really are more often used in writing. And this is going to be more formal writing, not the kind of writing you would do with a friend, but writing that you would do for school or for your job. And the formula for using these is that you have an independent clause. So that means that there's a subject and verb. It's also a sentence. So you have an independent clause. And then you can put a period, and then you're going to put one of these transition phrases, comma, and then a second sentence or a second independent clause. And I'll show you examples of these in a moment. The other formula is very similar, but instead of putting a period, you're going to join the two clauses with a semicolon. Let's look at some different types of transition words and phrases or adverbial conjunctions. The first one is to add an idea. So think of this as the same thing as and. You can use moreover, in addition, also, or furthermore. Next, contrast. So think of this like the same thing as but. However, in contrast, on the other hand, nevertheless. Now, nevertheless usually shows something that's unexpected, so this would be more similar to the word yet. Okay, next, result. As a result, therefore, consequently, as a consequence, hence, thus. So these are pretty formal words. You're not going to, especially these, you're not going to hear them very often, but you can use them in writing. To show an example, for instance, specifically. Now, specifically, we would use to give an example of an idea, but to make it more specific. Similarity, we can say likewise or similarly. For time or order, now there are many of these. These are just a few. You can say first, second, next. You can also say third, fourth, then, finally. We can also use lastly. In conclusion, this would be to at the end of your paragraph or at the end of your essay or the end of your presentation, you can use this to wrap up or conclude or finish. So in conclusion, to summarize. And there are more of these. We can also say to conclude, that would be the verb, or in summary. And finally, to explain or emphasize something, we can say in fact, or actually. So again, all of these words are types of transition words or phrases that follow this formula. And one tip I have for you is that if you are trying to write better, or you can also use these in presentations in more formal speaking situations, use a variety of them. For example, if you're writing an essay and you use the word however, maybe the next time you can use the word in contrast or nevertheless. If you're showing results, Don't use as a result over and over and over again. You can try some of these other words. And as your English develops, you will remember more of these, and you can try using more of them to add more variety to your writing. Okay, let's see some examples. So remember the formula that we're going to have independent clause, period, the transition, and then a comma, and then another independent clause. Or we're going to use a semicolon instead of the period. When we do this, we make one long sentence with two clauses joined. Now remember that this is going to be more formal, so this would be something that we would use in writing or in more formal speaking situations. Okay, so first what we're going to do is we're going to start with a sentence like California is a beautiful state. And then we're going to add a second clause or a second sentence. And remember that we can do that by putting a period, and then we're going to put our transition with a comma and then the independent clause. Or we can use a semicolon, the transition with a comma and then the independent clause. And I'll show you examples with both. So the first sentence is, California is a beautiful state. So how can we add a second clause here? Well, I can add a similar idea. I can say, moreover, it has a nice climate with mild winters. So here I have a capital letter, which means that I have decided to use this one where I have the period, moreover, comma, it has a nice climate with mild winters. Next, California is a beautiful state. However, it's very expensive. So for this one, I decided to use the semicolon, but again, I could do both of them. It doesn't matter. Now here I'm using contrast because I have two different ideas. It's beautiful, but it's very expensive. California is a beautiful state. As a result, many people want to live there. So this shows a result or an effect. It's beautiful. What happens next? Many people want to live there. For instance, people from other countries settle in California. So this would be a sentence that we could add after this one to give an example. Okay, next. California is a beautiful state. Similarly, Oregon has a lot of natural beauty. Here we're using a semicolon, but again, it doesn't matter. We can use either one. California is a beautiful state. Second, it has a good quality of life. So here I'm going to use second because maybe this was my first idea in my paragraph, and then the next idea that I want to talk about is that there's a good quality of life. So I'm using this transition to show my second idea. Finally, California is a beautiful state. In fact, it has the most stunning nature I've ever seen. So this is to explain or give emphasis to this idea. It's beautiful, then I'm going to explain that. In fact, it has the most stunning nature I've ever seen. So again, remember that you have your independent clause with a subject and verb, and then you're going to add a second clause. You're going to use one of these transitions to show the meaning. Are you going to show another idea, something different, a result or effect, an example, a similarity, something in order or in time? Or are you going to explain or add emphasis to your idea? So choose the type of transition that you want. And then remember that you can use a period, the transition word, a comma, and then your second clause, period. Or you can use a semicolon. And if you use the semicolon, that means that you're making one long sentence. And in that case, you're going to use a small letter here. Okay, let's look at 3 mistakes that are common with these, and then we will wrap up. So common mistakes with these conjunctions. The first one is using the wrong conjunction. Because there are so many, sometimes it happens that people get confused. They want to maybe show contrast, but instead they use a word that shows another idea. So again, just be careful with these, that you know exactly what the relationship is between the two clauses and you use the correct conjunction. Next, using these in informal situations. So that's not really a mistake, but it's more of something that wouldn't be appropriate for that situation. So remember that these are usually used in more formal situations: work, school, newspapers, other types of more serious writing. But we don't use them when we're talking with friends most of the time. And finally, another common mistake is not using the semicolon. So a lot of people don't know this punctuation rule, and as a result, they might use a comma instead. And so those would be mistakes for this place. Sometimes we can use a comma with these, but that's a different one, and I'll talk about that in another video. But if you're going to put them here, you have to use a period or a semicolon. That's all I have for you today about adverbial conjunctions and transition phrases. Please come back next time for another video about how to write correct sentences in English, and be sure to give this video a like if you found it helpful, and practice with me in the comments below. Take care, and I'll see you next time.